Yeah!
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to The Fringe. There was a lot of confusion about yesterday's video, and I wanted to clear the air. I wanted to not come here to apologize for yesterday's video, but to simply come here to state why those statements were made and perhaps the future of this channel and where our stories will go from here. I'm not going to dwell too much on what happened with David Menzies, aside from explaining that I agree that his Chrystia Freeland security detail should be with arm's reach of her at all times. That David Menzies was aware that the police were present as they were standing behind him. I will say that I believe what happened was a setup. I do believe they had every intention of arresting David Menzies and detaining him as he questioned Chrystia Freeland, which is why they allowed the access in the first place. When you look at that video, if you go back to my past video when I first reported on what happened to David Menzies, I do state Chrystia's smiling face as she's walking away. She got him. She got what she wanted. Her assistant moving out of the way at the direction of the police. I think that after David Menzies' long record of reporting, he would expect that something nefarious could and possibly will happen when approaching these politicians. If you remember during lockdowns, David Menzies reported on a party Justin Trudeau was holding in downtown Toronto, I believe, where he was roughed up and accosted by Justin Trudeau's security detail outside of a bar. As a journalist, you expect that when you're reporting in corrupt times, corrupt things are going to happen. The police did step over the line with their procedures. What I tried to touch on in yesterday's video was simply where they are going to defend what they did and how they're going to bend the rule of law to meet their expectations and justification, just like we saw with the Emergencies Act. And I wanted to touch base on that a little bit in this video, and then we're going to talk about the future of this channel. I hope you'll stick around till the end because I have an important message as to where we're going moving forward with this channel. Well, let's take a look at this article from Frontline. Now, this is what I was talking about when I stated that David Menzies was lucky nothing else happened to him. I'm not talking about authoritarian right to distribute justice from police officers. I'm talking about police who are abusing the law and bending the law to fit their narrative that could abuse their power even further. Now, this article comes out of Salt Lake City, but it's what I was basically talking about when we talk about the line of sight. The 21-foot rule and how a controversial training for police is used to justify shootings. It's taught to police across the country. Officers use it to explain why they shot at someone. Prosecutors in Utah point to it when deciding if police shooting was legal. It's called the 21-foot rule, and it means that someone with a knife running towards police could cover about 21 feet before officers unholster their gun and fire. This standard technique, which got its start in Salt Lake City, is now controversial, and it's been called outdated, simplistic, and even dangerous. It's not based on science or the law, and some national policing leaders argue it shouldn't be taught to cadets anymore. Yet new police officers still hear about it. The 21-foot rule has been cited directly by lawyers or police to justify shootings in 5 cases in Utah over the past 16 years. Now, I don't want to dwell too much into what they're controversing in Salt Lake City here and what their justification is. What I'm talking about is that when the line of sight was lost according to the police, this is what the police would defend. Because David Menzies is going to sue the bejesus out of the RCMP and the Canadian government, including Chrystia Freeland. He has every right to. And I think that his lawsuit is going to be highly successful. But when the Conservative Party launches their inquiry or when a court brings the police in, they are going to say they lost line of sight. That will be their excuse, I personally feel. And what I am saying is that while they felt that that was justified for what they did to David Menzies in their setup, that this 21-foot rule, David Menzies is lucky that we're not seeing higher levels of corruption where a police officer might use the excuse to draw a weapon and fire upon him. Why would I come to that conclusion? Let's take a look at what happened with Calgary police here. Young individual brought into a police station. Take a look at this level of abuse of power. The officer puts his hands on this individual. She's not cooperating. Well, slam her to the floor. Man slamming a woman to the floor for no reason. Just wants to puff out his chest and show authority. She wasn't fighting him. She wasn't doing anything more than mildly resisting the officer. Here comes his backup. Now, hold on a second here. While this video is graphic, here's what I want to show. This officer who stands back, puffing out his chest, he stands with his level of authority. He wants to make sure that he doesn't seem sorry or remorseful for what happened while there's a pool of blood on the floor and other officers coming in to check out the victim. And I say victim because this is an abuse of power. This is a police officer on an ego trip. And if we think about the bald-headed police officer who came in to disperse justice against David Menzies, he was on a power trip as well. And that's where I simply made an observation that I personally feel David Menzies is lucky that things didn't escalate any further and abuse of power didn't continue to push in that situation. I'll state again that I support Rebel News. I've done work with Rebel News in the past. I've donated to David's cause to sue the RCMP and Christian Freeland. I think Rebel News is a credible outlet, and for that reason, I'm very hopeful that after Pierre Poilievre's news conference, this isn't just a grift to include Rebel News to look good, but this is probably the start of politicians allowing outlets like Rebel News to be considered valid forms of journalism. We've seen True North being shut out of press conferences. We've seen mainstream media prostitutes be the only ones invited in to push government propaganda. The time for that has come to an end. And that's where I wanted to address yesterday's video as to where this channel stands moving forward. Now, many people will say, I couldn't handle the comments of internet trolls. This isn't about that. I'm happy to take any comment. Anybody who says that I'm shilling for a CBC job or that I'm being paid by the Liberals to discuss yesterday's video, that's not the case. I put out a question into my community yesterday saying, would you rather I pad the news? Would you rather that I become a choir boy like the rest of other YouTube channels that commentate politics that simply give a statement and allow you to draw your own conclusions? Or would you rather that I be unfiltered, raw, and give my 2 cents? This video, when you come to these channels, or any video that I make, is always with the decisions to give you the news, to give you facts, and then to not only provide my social commentary, but give my 2 cents as to what I personally feel on a story and what my personal opinion is. I feel that adding context to that helps other people to identify with, hey, maybe I'm not the only one who's feeling this way. Moving forward, what I can tell you, despite that community post, and I appreciate everyone's support in that post, I appreciate the friendly comments, I appreciate the reassurance that the right call was made in that video. But what I can tell you is that if you want a choir boy, if you want somebody who's going to do the same old, there are plenty of channels out there that cover politics that do that. When I started Unacceptable Fringe just over a year ago, it was to come in with the integrity to report the things that mainstream prostitutes will not. It's to be unbiased. It's to give you what I feel is the truth. If people can't handle truth, if people can't handle the fact that, hey, the politician they're cheering for might slip up somewhere, if people can't handle that we should hold people's feet to the fire and question all forms of government, not just the ones we dislike, this might not be the channel for you, and that's okay. What I'm here to tell you today is that moving forward with our videos, I will not be padding the news. I will not be taking events lightly and saying, "Oh, I'm generic YouTube channel agreeing with other generic YouTube channel." My goal is to stand out, and my goal is to say the things that other people don't want to say. If that's too much for people, again, maybe this isn't the right channel for you. I'm okay with that. But I will not be padding the news. I will not be saying what you want to hear so much as saying what needs to be said. I believe that despite people's claims of losing integrity yesterday, that it says something about my integrity that despite criticism, I'm prepared to stand up and speak my mind because I hold you as the viewer in a higher regard to say you deserve the truth. You deserve things unfiltered. Even if I'm questioning Pierre Poilievre, even if I'm questioning Maxime Bernier. If it's warranted, I believe it's justified. I'm very appreciative for everyone in this community who comes here to spend their time, to give their input in the comment section, to like a video, to share it out, to subscribe. members of the channel, people who come out during live streams and support our cause. I'm very grateful for every single person in this community. I've always said we have one of the best communities on the planet. But I wouldn't be credible and I wouldn't be justified to come here and make content for you if I was prepared to be compromised to say, well, I don't want to rock the boat, or I don't want to go against what the norm is on this subject. I believe that you as the viewer deserve better than that, and I'm going to continue to give you that. I will not apologize for yesterday's video. I will state that I believe that what I was saying was taken out of context. I believe that there are cases where people do not watch the entire video and do not hear everything that somebody has to say. That they hear a couple of words and then shut it off and give their 2 cents in the comment section. And for those people, I actually feel bad for them because they're not getting the complete context of a story. They're hearing what they want to hear. This video is not to be angry. This video is not to be making any kind of rude statement towards my viewers or sound ungrateful. But I can assure you moving forward that I believe that in order for you to have a good experience on this channel, I have to be honest. I have to question all forms of government, especially after the last 8 years. What any incoming government needs to realize is that we as Canadians can't feed ourselves, we can't pay our mortgages, we can't survive in the current conditions. And if another politician wants to come in thinking that, hey, this is open season and we just have to be a little more careful the next time around just not to get caught like the last guy, they're in for a rude awakening. Canadians should be mad as hell and saying to any government, we don't trust the lot of you. This isn't about our team versus your team. This is about what's best for Canadians. This is about how people get their lives back on track. And how we get our lives back on track is holding government to account anytime they make a questionable call, anytime the police make a questionable call, anytime any form of authority makes a call. If they've stepped over the line, it's our job and due diligence as voters and as Canadians to call that out. I would ask in the 1,000,000 to 1 shot that I retain the mayor's chair in Calgary, or obtain, I should say, that you would hold me to account if I did anything that was off book or off key, anything that stepped over the line. A band of truckers went to Ottawa in 2022 to hold the line for our rights because the government had impeded them. And in that time, the government has done nothing more than continue to not only step over that line, but take a flying leap into dismantling this country. I will always, always bring you what I believe is the truth. Whether people like it or not, I'll have my opinions. And that's all they are at the end of the day, is opinions. You're allowed to decide what works for you outside of this channel, and I'm grateful again for anybody who comes to hear what I have to say. But moving forward, I will not apologize for my statements. I will not be cookie cutter, and I'm going to give it to you the way that I see fit. Because at the end of the day, I want to have integrity on this channel, and I'm prepared to call out anybody who steps in the way of that. I look forward to seeing everybody in the stream on Sunday that usually comes out at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. I'm sorry for the long rant. I want to make things clear that I'm not apologizing for yesterday's video, but I will acknowledge that the way I constructed that video may have caused some confusion. For anybody who can't handle that sometimes it's going to go against your guy, your team, the way you see things, sorry, not sorry. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I'll catch you on the next one.